Keir Starmer wants to dump key aspects of the 2019 manifesto. That's according to City AM, who report this. Exclusive. Starmer to back away from 2019 Labour manifesto with series of key speeches. They probably didn't need to call this an exclusive. It's the kind of thing we've known for a while. In any case, from the article, City AM say, a senior Labour Party source told City AM that Starmer is expected to slaughter the sacred cows of Corbynism in the lead up to summer, with speculation this could soon include ditching the former Labour leader's pledges to nationalise rail, mail, energy and water. As I've said, none of this is surprising. Keir Starmer has shown time and time again that his only pitch to the country is, I'm not Jeremy Corbyn. And his only policy positions are, whatever the left wants, I'll do the opposite. But there's a problem with positing this shift to the right as just slaughtering the sacred cows of Corbynism, because they were also the sacred cows of Keir Starmer. This is one of 10 pledges he made during his leadership campaign. It's still available on his website. So it's Pledge 5. Common ownership. Public services should be in public hands, not making profits for shareholders. Support common ownership of rail, mail, energy and water, and outsourcing in our NHS, local government and justice system. Since making that pledge, Keir Starmer has attempted to suggest it didn't imply nationalisation. For example, last year when speaking to Andrew Marr.
I don't see nationalisation there. There is
what else does public hands mean?
There's a world. Well, public services should be in public hands. But when it comes to something like energy, we've got an immediate problem in the next few months that we've got to solve. And then when it comes to common ownership, I'm pragmatic about this. I do not agree with the argument that says we must be ideological.
No one makes the argument we must be ideological. That's just not an argument anyone makes. There was no ambiguity, though, during the leadership debate on Newsnight.
I'm asking you to raise your hands. When you go into the next election, would you have any of these in your manifesto, potentially? First of all, raise your hands if you're into scrapping tuition fees. That's everyone. Renationalising water and electricity. Yeah.
Of course, we're used to Keir Starmer going back on his word. In his now infamous 10 pledges, he promised to put human rights at the heart of Britain's foreign policy, then abstained on the Overseas Operation Bill, which effectively allows British troops stationed abroad to use torture. He pledged to defend freedom of movement, which Labour have now explicitly abandoned, and he promised to unite the party before spending 2 years relentlessly attacking the left. The latest chapter in that assault involves Starmer's predecessor. The Sunday Times suggested last week that the Labour leadership are plotting to oust Jeremy Corbyn from Parliament. They report there is no mechanism available to deselect Corbyn other than the trigger mechanism under which his local party would have to vote for a new contest, which he would then have to lose. As a popular local MP, this will not pose a threat to him. However, a senior party insider said, "We are determined to bring this to a head. The current position is not sustainable." A source close to Keir Starmer said there was no chance he would bring back Corbyn and that his time in the Labour Party was effectively over. Even if Corbyn apologises for his comments, as was demanded by Nick Brown, the former chief whip, it is understood that the party would find a pretext for continuing his suspension. The belief on the part of Starmer and his allies is presumably that a high-profile fight with Corbyn will only further convince the public that the party has changed. But they might be underestimating the size of the Labour core vote who quite like the previous leader. A YouGov poll at the end of last year showed that among 2019 Labour voters, Corbyn enjoyed the largest support of any former party leader. 68% had a positive attitude towards him, compared to only 36% for Starmer. Perhaps Sir Keir would be more popular among Labour voters if he was less obviously dishonest.
It's worse than you thought. That's what we've learned, Michael. I mean, I'm kind of entertained, actually, by how bad he is at this stuff. He was asked a question by some young people in Sunderland, and they said, how will you provide security for young people? And he said, well, I will give security to young people by making them feel secure. It's like, who the hell is this guy? Is this really going to be a robust candidate in a general election campaign facing down Linton Crosby? Because it might not be Boris Johnson in charge. It might be somebody else. But the Tories do election campaigns really well. You know, you really want somebody like that? Keir Starmer. Well, there's a world of difference between public ownership and nationalisation. Really? Okay. Well, tell me. Well, we don't want to be ideological about this. And it's just, you're not even answering the question. And like I said at the time, Michael, it wasn't just that he was lying. He'd gone back on his promise. You might not call that lying, whatever. It wasn't just that he was lying. He was then lying about lying on TV in front of everybody, where there was literally evidence on a television behind him showing that he was lying. And I sort of wonder about somebody like that. I mean, he's obviously got to the top of his profession. He's obviously a very talented lawyer, but maybe he's just so good at convincing himself of things, even when it's so completely at odds with the facts. Because that's your job, right? As a barrister and as a lawyer, often you're having to argue that case, make that case in as compelling and robust a case as you can. This isn't how it works in politics, because you're having to persuade people using facts and feelings, preferably more facts and feelings, but it's, we have to be real, it's a bit of both. And on both counts, he fails. He doesn't really establish strong feelings in anyone. The best defense for Starmer is he makes people less angry than Corbyn. Okay, fine. Does he enthuse anybody? I mean, is that really going to be enough to be prime minister? I suspect not. We could be wrong. There's 2 years to go. He could get better. His proclivity to lie, his dislikability, his dishonesty, his absence of policy and ideas, his inability to bring a team together. You saw that with the treatment of Angela Rayner after last May's local election results. I just don't see what there is with this guy. I don't see what there is. Even with Yvette Cooper, who went on the BBC Politics show on Sunday, not the Mars show. I don't know what the hell they call it anymore. It's as crap as it always was, with Sophie Rayworth. And even Yvette Cooper was really pulling her punches when Sophie Rayworth was trying to trap her on Corbyn and on policy changes. She boxed clever in a way that Starmer can't. I don't really understand why this guy, as I like to call him, Captain Pop-Tart, is held up by the Parliamentary Labour Party as the best they've got, because he clearly isn't. Even if you're on the right of the party or the soft left, he clearly isn't. And at this point, they're flying on the back of his CV. And I think the big test for him is if they don't do well in May, and they may do. We've still got several months. National polling's been generally good for Labour. It's going down recently, but let's see. It's such a dynamic situation with the Downing Street parties and Boris Johnson. If they don't do well, then I do think Labour politicians, particularly those in marginals, will think, look, maybe this isn't the guy for us. And from the other side, from the Labour right, people like Peter Mandelson and so on, they view him as, 1987 redux anyway. They view him as somebody who'll make inroads into the Tory majority, and then they get a leader further to his right in afterwards, whether that's for the next time or the one after. It's not about solving problems. It's not, look, if you're a renter, if you're worried about, high energy bills, if you're worried about crime, if you're worried about any of these issues, or your student debt, you're about to see your interest payments go up because they're bringing the threshold of repayment down. He's not going to sort any of this. I can tell you this now. He's not going to do anything. I know you disagree about this, Michael. You're like, no, they have a really substantive policy agenda. I just don't think so. Peter Mandelson was the head of communications for the Labour Party in the 1987 general election. Very young man in his early 30s at the time. I really think he and his cronies are looking at the next general election as 87 redux. That's exactly what they're trying to do. It's about distancing yourselves from the previous guy, bringing the big funders in, and really, I think they'll be focusing on getting right-wing MPs in for the next 5, 10, 15 years. That's the project for them. And I think left-wingers, quote unquote, who I don't think anybody that voted Starmer in on the left who doesn't regret their decision. I don't think you are on the left. I mean, I'm not the universal, font of truth. So you can disagree with me if you like, but I really think that was a very unwise choice. And I personally would regret it if I was them. I think the idea that somehow Starmer is going to lead to a more left-wing party, or the party will be more left-wing after him, no way. The composition of the Labour Party is going to go significantly right now over the next 10 years, certainly over the next 5 years, unless something very drastically goes wrong for the right and the people in charge of the party. Last May, it looked like that may well be the case. Now I'm not so sure.